So this idea that this Manchester United team is better than it suggests, it's not. It's a really average team for what Manchester United needs to be. And as a group of players, I don't like them.
How did they finish second last season?
I don't know. Maybe Jose Mourinho at the time told us that it was his greatest ever achievement finishing second with that team. And we all laughed because we always thought it was Jose just playing in. Maybe he was right. Maybe it was a great achievement. Maybe actually that wasn't an incredible thing that happened. But what I would say is that Tottenham team, when we think back towards it and the characters that it had in it, the poor characters that it had in it, and we used to ridicule them at the time, and we used to really sort of, when we you go to watch teams all the time in the Premier League.
There's more quality in this United squad than that Tottenham squad.
No, but you grow to like teams and you grow not to like teams. I've never not liked a Manchester United team. I've always thought, to be fair, the team can win, the team can lose, the team can draw. But I really struggle with this team to watch them. I really struggle to feel that they really mean it. And what pains me more is that the two clubs that I dislike the most, that I watch on Saturday night and I watch here tonight, I see everything right. I see a spirit, a hunger, a resilience, a toughness, a going to the end. Forget the quality's there as well. They've got a lot better quality. But actually, the foundations, and all it's got, I think, there's a two-stage job for Manchester United now. The idea that Manchester United should talk about a Championship and Premier League title-winning team at this moment is nonsensical. Forget it. The first thing they have to do is cleanse the dressing room, cleanse the club. And that's from the top to the bottom, to be honest. You don't just start in the dressing room. There's things above that need to be dealt with as well. They need someone to run the football side of the club. And
well, on that point, do you like the idea of hunting for an ex-Manchester United player? It seems to be the ongoing process.
Manchester United player, I think what they should do to start with is shift the people who are in charge of the club at this moment in time back into the business side of the club, back down to London. I think they should put a new football department in charge who are the best in class, not have played at the club before, I've got 200 games for the club, or have been at the club 15 years, or have been a fan. The best in class football operators. They've got 3 here, by the way. Not none, 3. And basically, underneath that, then put the right recruitment people, the right technical people. Then the manager and the coach will find it a lot easier, and then you get the right spirit in the dressing room, the right group of people in the dressing room. We've seen one out here tonight, like Harry Maguire, and I'm not, to be fair, disrespecting Leicester, but he's a type of character that you would expect to see. Let me finish, Dave, please. And from that point then, you might then get into the top 4 and finish 4th and 3rd, and you might develop a team that the fans like again, that we can see, hear and respect professionally. And from that moment, that might take 2 or 3 years, you can then go on and you can go for the title. This is a 5-year project. United are not going to go from where they are today to win the title in the next 12 to 18 months, 2 years. It isn't going to happen. So think about a plan that's going to work, but you've got to get the right people in first.
You mentioned Manchester City, they've done it. But I think there are many teams, and probably most of the other top 6 sides and a lot of sides below that, who do have that kind of structure in place. Why do you think Manchester United don't?
I genuinely do not know. Look, the first 3 or 4 years out of Sir Alex Ferguson's era, I can explain. David Gill and Sir Alex leave within 10 minutes of each other. So it's always been a 2-man job. One business person, financial person, one manager. So I can understand why Manchester United went for David Moyes, who was somebody, to be fair, that fit in line with what Manchester United historically have gone with. And I can understand why they moved someone who was within the club, because when Peter Kenyon left, David Gill took over. So that's fine. Ed Woodward comes in. But Ed Woodward's had 7 years now at this. 7 years. So I think he's had his chance, personally. I think he's had his chance at running the football side of the club. No problem with keeping him in the club at the business side of things. The revenues, the operating profit, I would imagine, are pleasing the Glazer family enormously. So that's fine, but he's had his chance in running the football side of the club. So now you have to think about, right, OK, that 2-person structure's not worked for the first 3-4 years. It's now a situation whereby they've got to bring a different structure in. It's a big football club. It's a monster of a football club. And they need to bring in the best in class, and they need to step aside.
You know, obviously, you're finding emotional about it, and I understand that. But, you keep talking about Ed Woodward. What managerial decision, which is the biggest decision for him, what ones you looking at? They haven't worked, of course, but what was you against at the time? As you said, you would have kept Moyes.
No,
and then you get Jose Mourinho, who is an absolute winner and has won everywhere. So what? That's his big decision as a CEO, whatever his title is. What's your big thing that he's getting wrong? Keep talking about.
Well, you know my stance. I will never ask for a manager to be sacked on Sky. I never will. And I'm never going to turn around and say when the manager gets appointed, I think this is the wrong appointment. I'm not going to say that. Because the reality of it is, You don't know sometimes. Mauricio Pochettino came to Southampton at the time, Nigel Adkins left, and we thought it was a little bit strange. It turned out to be an inspired appointment. So when the appointments of David Moyes is there, you support him and you try and be a professional. We're ex-professionals, we've been in the change room.
So you think he's got the managerial appointments wrong?
No, what's happened is over the last 5 years that the club has ricocheted and bounced like a pinball from one manager to another with different philosophies. They've been pulled around, they've been played in the transfer market time and time again. And forget whether I would have agreed with it or not agreed with it at the time. If you've not delivered success on the pitch, and football clubs are about performance and delivering success, if you've not delivered on the pitch for 5, 6, 7 years, there comes a point where you've got to say, well, hang on a second, it can't just keep being the coach. There's got to be people above that have to step aside and move into a different role. Because I'll be honest with you, if I run a football club and I didn't achieve our goals for 7 years, I wouldn't think I was doing very well. And the goals of Manchester United Football Club are not about just the bottom line. Yeah, of course it has to make a lot of profit, but it has to deliver performance and results, and it's not.
But you talk about best in class. Does that apply to other departments? Do they have a manager who is best in class now?
They've had coaches over the last 6, 7 years, Dave, who have been best in class. Jose Mourinho was an equal to Pep Guardiola as the best in the world in terms of success over 20 years. Louis van Gaal is the most experienced managers over the last 25 years. They've appointed best in class coaches who have failed at Manchester United. So you say to yourself, well, is it the coach then? You start to question, is it just the coach? There is a cultural problem at the football club. There is a cultural problem. It's deep. The decisions are bad. The choices are poor. Who's signing the players this summer? Every other football club in this country, I can tell you who's in charge of signings. I haven't got a clue at Manchester United. They've still got Sir Alex's chief scout. They've still got Louis van Gaal's scout there. They've still got David Moyes' chief football operator there. They've got 4 or 5 people there. I think there's another guy that's come in that's been appointed by the CEO. So you've got 4 or 5 people in charge of recruitment. You've got a head coach who'll have an opinion. You've got the CEO who'll have an opinion. Who's in charge? Who makes the final say? Who has the final say? Jose Mourinho last summer was told his signings that he wanted were not right. Who was telling Jose Mourinho that his signings were not right at the football club? Now, Jose Mourinho didn't cover himself always in glory. He should have moved to Manchester. He should have committed to buying a house. He should have smiled a little bit more because it was should be a joy to manage Manchester United. Maybe the football wasn't always the most delightful, but actually it was better than I thought under Louis van Gaal. So there's decisions that Jose Mourinho made that weren't right, but you've got to say to yourself, who is telling Jose Mourinho at Manchester United, the manager who's won everywhere he's been, that you cannot sign that centre-back? Who's telling him? Who's qualified?
But all those managers that you're talking about spent huge money.
I know.
And you're saying there's not a director of football there, so they need this football figure. OK, lots of football clubs do it. But when you haven't got that figure, that means the manager is buying the players. And he's spending the money. No, but you think a player got bought by Ed Wood and you're just giving to Jose Mourinho or Louis van Gaal or David Moyes? That's not right.
No, we know last year that there were 2 centre-backs that Jose Mourinho wanted to bring in and the club refused him those centre-backs. Now, they might not have been the right centre-backs, they might have made the right decision. But once you start going against
Sanchez?
Once you start going against your manager on signings, the manager might as well walk out of the door. He might as well walk out of the door.
Who wanted Sanchez? Do you think Mourinho wanted
Sanchez? I'm not saying Jose Mourinho was easy to manage.
Gary, do you think Mourinho wanted Sanchez?
Probably. I think he probably did.
Well, do you think that would have... What happened in the summer? Because the centre-backs he was looking at were 29, 30s. He brought Ibrahimovic in. He brought Sanchez in as well. Players of that age. And they hadn't worked, had they?
But my point is...
Matic is another.
But you can't half-build a house. You cannot give Jose Mourinho his head and bring him in. And then all of a sudden think, oh, I didn't like his last 2 signings, I'm not going to support him on this one. You're either with him or you're not with him. As soon as they weren't with him, they should just moved him out at that point. Because if you're not supported as a manager in your signings, you're finished at a football club. You're done. You're done.
But what happens if the director of football comes in that you're talking about, and then he doesn't, and then Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't want players he wants?
I'm not talking about a director of football. Actually, they do need football people in there that are the highest calibre. I'm talking about a new direction and a strategy that means that the club can actually move forward in the next 3 or 4 years. It's beyond a director of football or a coach.
We've got a minute left. We've got a minute left here. What's the best you think that you could hope for Manchester United next season?
Have 11 players out on that pitch who want to play for the club. That's a starting point. Who want to be there, who run till the last minute of every single match. That is a starting point. Off the pitch you can't control. That's always the starting point of every team. They've got a coaching group there, to be fair, who love the club, who will die for the club. I know that for a fact. People might say, oh, they're not this or they're not that. But what they will, they'll bleed the club. you know, if you cut them open. So my view is get a group of players in that dressing room who are aligned and want to do the very best for Manchester United, who see Manchester United as a great football club. There are definitely 5 or 6 people in that dressing room that look to me at the moment like they don't want to be there always.
Final thought, has Ed Woodward called you? Because if he hasn't, he's called everybody else.
No, but Dave, the shambles of last week, this is where I'm going, by the way. It's where I'm going now, I've gone. It takes a lot for me to criticise my own
10
club.
seconds.
Right. How can it be that 4 players who have never been businessmen, never managed the club, never coached, never been sporting directors, are put forward for this amazingly difficult role at the most difficult time, at the biggest club in the world? It's a shambles.
It's the perfect night for Manchester City, isn't it? Because not only have they won here, they've got to hear about Manchester United's problems as
Made me feel a bit better, that.